Imagine a young black girl walking barefoot along dusty streets in Illinois, born just a few years after the Civil War. Her parents had been slaves, and the echoes of chains, oppression, and systemic injustice were woven into every corner of her world. Yet she walked with her head held high, carrying a fire in her heart that no hardship could extinguish. Her name was Annie Minerva Turnbow Malone, and she would grow to become one of the wealthiest and most influential black women in America, not by inheriting fortune, not by marrying into it, but by creating it from her own hands, her own mind, and her unshakable determination. The story begins in 1869, in a world where opportunities for black Americans were scarce, where doors were closed before they could even knock, and where women, especially black women, were expected to dream small, to survive rather than thrive. Annie was different. She didn't just dream, she planned, experimented, and acted. She observed the struggles of black women around her, hair damaged by harsh chemicals, social exclusion, and limited economic independence. She saw the pain in the eyes of mothers and daughters, sisters and friends, and she refused to accept it as an unchangeable reality. From a very young age, Annie experimented. She would mix herbs, oils, and natural ingredients, testing each concoction on her own hair and the hair of willing friends and relatives. Every mixture that failed became a lesson, every mixture that worked became a small victory. By the time she was a teenager, she had begun to develop formulas that would eventually transform hair care for black women nationwide. She was meticulous, studying ingredients and methods like a chemist, understanding that quality and consistency would be the foundation of her future empire. In the late 1800s, Annie moved to St. Louis, Missouri, seeking opportunity. She brought with her only a small supply of her products and an unwavering belief that she could succeed where few black women had before. She began selling door to door, demonstrating her products personally, teaching women not just how to use them but also how to start their own businesses. Every door she knocked on was a potential client, every conversation an opportunity to empower another black woman with skills and income. By 1918, Annie's vision had grown into something extraordinary. She established Poro College, a unique institution that was part factory, part beauty school, part community center. The campus had classrooms, a chapel, a gymnasium, a cafeteria, and meeting halls. Women came from across the United States, and even from Africa and the Caribbean, to study, train, and build their own businesses. Poro College was more than a school, it was a movement, a hub of education, entrepreneurship, and community upliftment. It offered black women a rare chance to achieve independence, and Annie made sure every student left not just with skills, but with confidence, knowledge, and hope. Her company, Poro Products, became a national phenomenon. Newspapers reported on her success, highlighting her as one of the wealthiest black women in America. By the early 1920s, Annie was paying some of the highest individual income taxes in Missouri, an astounding $40,000 at a time when most Americans struggled to make ends meet. She had built a business empire from scratch, and she had done so with a vision that extended far beyond profit. Annie's wealth was not hoarded. She donated generously to historically black colleges such as Howard University and Tuskegee Institute, funded YMCAs, orphanages, and countless students seeking education. She understood that money was a tool to create opportunity, not an end in itself. Her life became a blueprint for empowerment. Wealth was not just personal success, it was community transformation. But Annie Malone's life was not without struggle. She faced personal challenges, including a bitter divorce in the late 1920s that led to legal battles over her assets. Creditors and tax authorities began to chip away at her fortune, and the Great Depression added another layer of difficulty. Despite these setbacks, Annie continued to work, teach, and inspire. Her resilience became part of her legend. She showed the world that even extraordinary individuals are not immune to life's hardships, but vision, determination, and courage can overcome almost any obstacle. Throughout her life, Annie was surrounded by myths. One persistent story claims that she outspent John D. Rockefeller on a mansion. While there is no historical evidence that she ever competed with Rockefeller dollar for dollar on estates, the myth reflects the impact of her success and the awe it inspired. The truth is more powerful. Her real mansion was not a house of stone and gold, but a school, a business empire, and a movement that changed thousands of lives. As Malone grew older, her direct influence over her company waned, but her legacy only grew stronger. Thousands of women continued to operate Poro salons, carrying her teachings across generations. Even as her fortune declined, her vision remained alive in every agent she trained, every student she educated, and every community she uplifted. When she passed away in 1957, Annie Malone had left behind not just wealth, but a blueprint for Black empowerment, entrepreneurship, and resilience. Her story is a testament to what is possible when intelligence, courage, and vision meet opportunity. Annie Malone did not just survive in a world stacked against her, she thrived, and she reshaped the possibilities for generations of Black women. Her life reminds us that true wealth is measured not in dollars or mansions, but in lives transformed, doors opened, and communities uplifted. By the early 1910s, Annie Malone's life had transformed in ways few could have predicted. What had started as a small, homemade operation in a modest St. Louis home had now grown into a fully fledged business, employing dozens of women and reaching hundreds of clients across the city. But Annie was not content with merely selling products. She saw an even larger opportunity, an opportunity to create independence for Black women at a time when society systematically denied them economic mobility. Every morning, Poro College opened its doors to a flood of eager women. Some were teenagers seeking their first chance to earn money, others were mothers determined to provide for their children. Annie would walk through the halls, observing classes in haircare, sales techniques, bookkeeping, and entrepreneurship. Her presence was both authoritative and inspiring. She expected excellence, but she also nurtured ambition. Many students would later recall that simply being in her presence was transformative. She demanded the best, but she gave the tools to achieve it. Her training system was meticulous. Agents were taught not only how to sell Poro products but also how to manage money, train staff, and open salons of their own. Annie understood that to truly empower women, she had to teach them skills beyond haircare. A salon was not just a business, it was a hub of influence, a way for Black women to gain financial independence, social respect, and community leadership. Poro Products itself became a symbol of innovation. Annie formulated shampoos, oils, and creams specifically for Black hair that mainstream products ignored or damaged. She combined her knowledge of chemistry with an intuitive understanding of beauty, creating formulas that were gentle, nourishing, and effective. The result was a brand that women trusted implicitly. Every bottle sold carried not just a promise of beauty, but a promise of empowerment, opportunity, and self-respect. By 1918, Annie's vision took a monumental leap. She founded Poro College, a campus unlike anything else in America at the time. The college was sprawling and well-equipped, classrooms for theory, practical salons for hands-on training, a chapel for reflection, a cafeteria feeding hundreds, and even a gymnasium to ensure the students' physical well-being. Poro College was not just a school, it was a sanctuary. Within its walls, Black women could dream freely, learn fearlessly, and grow their ambitions without fear of societal judgment. Daily life at Poro College was rigorous. Classes began at dawn, with students learning sales techniques, product knowledge, and client relations. Afternoons were spent practicing on models, perfecting their skills, and understanding the nuances of customer service. Evenings often included lectures on entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal finance. Annie believed that beauty and business went hand in hand. Every student was trained to be independent, confident, and competent. It was a time of experimentation and expansion. Annie personally oversaw the production of every formula, ensuring quality control at every stage. Workers in her factory followed precise methods, mixing ingredients with care, bottling products, and preparing them for shipment across the nation. Her meticulous oversight earned her a reputation for excellence. Competitors marveled at her methods, colleagues admired her discipline. And through it all, she remained deeply committed to her students and agents, often writing personal letters of encouragement or traveling to visit salons personally. By the early 1920s, her empire had grown beyond imagination. Reports in national newspapers hailed her as one of the wealthiest black women in America. In Missouri, she paid some of the highest individual taxes recorded at the time, totaling nearly $40,000, a fortune for that era. Yet even with such wealth, Annie's focus remained on community and upliftment rather than personal luxury. She donated generously to historically black colleges, YMCAs, orphanages, and churches. She understood that her success was a platform to elevate others, not merely a mark of personal achievement. Her philanthropy was strategic and visionary. Annie funded scholarships for students pursuing higher education, ensuring that young black men and women had opportunities she had never enjoyed. She supported the construction of community centers and educational programs, and she created employment opportunities at Poro College and in salons nationwide. In doing so, she built an intricate network of economic empowerment that reverberated across the country and even reached the Caribbean and Africa. Yet, alongside her achievements, Annie faced mounting pressures. The business world was harsh, and being a black woman in early 20th century America amplified every challenge. There were lawsuits, disputes with former partners, and the constant scrutiny of a society unaccustomed to seeing women of color wielding such influence. Her personal life was also complicated. A bitter divorce in the late 1920s drained both her energy and her resources. Creditors and taxes slowly eroded portions of her wealth, and the looming Great Depression would place further strains on her empire. Despite these challenges, Annie Malone's resilience never faltered. She approached obstacles with a strategy, analyzing each problem, delegating responsibilities, and continuing to educate, train, and inspire. Even during times of personal and financial struggle, Poro College remained operational, and her agents continued to flourish. Her legacy was already becoming larger than life, not because of material possessions, but because of the countless lives she had touched. It was during this era that myths began to surround her name. Some stories claimed that her mansion rivaled Rockefeller's estates or that she had outspent him on luxury. These tales, while exaggerated, reflected the awe her contemporaries felt toward a black woman who had built a nationwide empire. The truth was more nuanced and far more inspiring. Her wealth was invested in people, education, and business growth, not ostentatious displays of luxury. Poro College itself, with its expansive campus, classrooms, salons, and training halls, was her real mansion, a monument to empowerment, not extravagance. Annie's influence extended far beyond economics. She became a role model for generations of black women, demonstrating that ambition, intelligence, and resilience could overcome systemic barriers. Every agent she trained became a testament to her philosophy: beauty and business could coexist, and financial independence was a form of liberation. Her methods laid the groundwork for modern black entrepreneurship, long before the concept was widely recognized or celebrated. Daily operations at Poro College were a delicate balancing act. Annie had to oversee production schedules, manage staff, train new agents, handle marketing and distribution, and maintain personal relationships with students and clients. Her attention to detail was legendary. She knew every formula, understood every shipment, and often walked the floors herself to ensure standards were maintained. Observers reported that she had a unique combination of discipline and warmth, firm when necessary, but always nurturing and encouraging. By the mid-1920s, the Poro network was vast. Agents operated salons in major cities across the United States. Some traveled as far as the Caribbean and Africa to expand the brand. Each new salon was a seat of independence, a place where women could earn, learn, and lead. Annie's philosophy was simple yet radical: wealth is temporary, influence is eternal, and empowerment is the ultimate measure of success. Even as she faced personal setbacks, Annie remained committed to her vision. She continued to innovate in product development, often experimenting with new formulas herself. She visited salons personally, training agents and observing their methods. She wrote letters of encouragement to her students and agents, reinforcing her belief that every woman she trained could achieve independence and success. By the late 1920s, Annie Malone was not just a businesswoman, she was a movement. Poro products had become a household name, synonymous with quality, empowerment, and opportunity. Her agents were not mere salespeople, they were entrepreneurs, educators, and community leaders. And yet, despite her fame and success, Annie remained humble. She never flaunted her wealth, and she continued to invest in the people around her, prioritizing education and opportunity over personal luxury. Even the challenges of the Great Depression could not fully diminish her impact. While the economic downturn affected many aspects of her business, the network of trained agents and salons she had built proved resilient. Some salons closed, but many adapted, and the skills she had instilled in her agents allowed them to survive and even thrive during the difficult years. Her philosophy, that empowerment and skill are more valuable than wealth alone, was validated time and time again.